Hello, everyone. I'm Bernadette,
I'm Stephanie.
I am Juan Victor.
And I'm Darwish.
and we will be presenting our Patient Budget Tracker, which is a money management application. Our team consists of members, and all of us took part as either back-end, front-end developer, or UI designer. I'll pass it to Stephanie to continue the presentation.
We created our budget tracker in order to make a tool for users that will assist them with money management. We believe that keeping track of how much and where we spend our money will give us a good overview of the amount of money we spend within a period of time.
So with the help of our budget tracker, users have the ability to reduce unconscious consumer spending, 2, view spending habits, and 3, establish a secure personal money management system.
So let's go over the details and functionality of our software. We will break it into 5 parts and go over each one. First, user can log in using username and password. Second, users will input and set a limit, which we called it set budget, for their spending. Third, user will be able to log in the expenses after each purchase. Fourth, users will be able to see the summary of their spending. And lastly, they can view the file of all of their activity on application.
So we use 3 key technologies in our application. First, we use the JavaFX, CSV database, and the Java programming language to implement our software. Second, we use the Eclipse and IntelliJ IDE system to help us run our application, as well as the user will need a hard drive file system to run the application also. Lastly, Java version is version number 8, which the software could be installed on a Windows PC, Mac OS, or an Android smartphone. I will now pass it off to Darwish, who will go over the class diagrams.
So here's our class diagram, and which is an overview of that we used for implementing our application. The user class aggregates the set date, expenses, budget, and composes save file. We use the save file class to save our data from set date, expenses, and set budget. They are saved as a .text file, .txt file, .csv for the expenses, so it can be opened via a spreadsheet software, and .dat file for the set date.
We also have a state diagram of our application. As you can see, once the user enters the correct login information, they have several functionalities to choose from, such as set budget, log expenses, set date, summary, save file, or they could log out straight from the application. Now we will proceed to showcase our budget tracker in a demo.
So here is the login page. As you can see, a first-time user could register for an account by creating a username and password. Once the user finishes entering his or her login information, they will be immediately directed. For example, let's say the first time the user entered ABC as their username and password as their password. Once they have registered their username and password, they can officially log in and head to page, which Stephanie will talk about it.
So on the home page, the user can navigate to various pages, though if the user has to log in for the very first time, they will first need to go to the set budget and set date page to initialize their funds. Afterwards, they can start logging their expenses in the log expense page and later get a summary of their purchases. At the top of the homepage is the progress bar, which displays the amount of available cash out of the budget limit the user sets beforehand. As more expenses get logged, you will see that the progress bar will move accordingly. And instead of just talking about these features, let's move on to showcasing how to use the set budget page.
Once you click on the Set Budget button on the home page, you are now taken to the Set Budget page. Here, the user can set their budget limit, which is essentially a threshold of how much money the user can spend within a given time frame. Then the user can now enter a dollar amount onto the set budget limit text field. Note that only positive numbers are allowed. This means that if a user enters a string of letters, the app will automatically display an error message to try again. Once the user enters their budget limit, they can click on the Set Budget Limit button down below, which the system automatically records the budget limit entry. In addition, on the right side of the page, the user can now have the ability to adjust the budget amounts by either increasing or decreasing the budget limit. As you can see, the user has successfully increased and decreased their budget limit by those amounts. Now, let's move on to showcasing on how to use the set date page.
So for the set date, the user shall first start entering the date for when they want to start their budget. Upon entering the starting date, the system will automatically generate a default end date exactly 1 month after. Thus, this 1 month period is essentially the time frame from when the budget limit begins to when the budget limit expires, in which the user can re-enter a new budget limit for a new time frame. So with that being said, we head to log expenses, which Darwish will talk about it.
So in the log expenses, we have the user can type in the name of the item. So let's say steak. And the amount that they spend their money on in the corresponding fields. So there are also placeholders if you look to determine better what type of input is expected. They can select from the drop-down menu the closest category that it belongs in. And when they hit the add item, it displays on the right side of the application in a table. If necessary, the user can also delete the expense that they have by highlighting the item on the table and clicking subtract the item. Let's add that back in for demonstration purposes. If, however, the user inputs an invalid input in the item cost text field, like a character, or too many decimal places, the program will throw an error and the item will not be logged in the table. If the total expenses exceed the budget limit, then the app will warn the user and not add the expense. And if the user's available balance is at 10% from the budget limit, then the app will also warn the user, which we saw earlier. So more, just to finish this off. And then it displays a warning message when we've reached all the budget limit. So just remove it. Okay, now we go to our summary pages, which Stephanie will be talking about.
Here is our summary page, which displays the user's total expenses in a visual and easy to understand format so that the user can understand where their money is going. It updates according to what the user inputs from the log expenses page, since, as you can see, only rent and groceries were logged in from the log expenses page. It had displayed onto the summary. Of course, there are other categories, but we are currently displaying the ones that the user has set. And let's move on to our save file functionality that Darwish has implemented.
So for our save file, when the user first logs in, the application will check whether there is existing data, and the user shall also be informed that the data is loaded via a dialog box, which we saw earlier. Otherwise, a directory will be created, or files will be created that will contain the user's data. The Save File button will save all current states into their corresponding text files, CSV files, or .dat files. In each scene change, the application will either save or load the states so that the user will be able to continue where they left off. That's it for our demo. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your listening. We hope you enjoyed our budget tracker software.